Manhattan, around 9:57 a.m. Lennox Carrington didn't flinch when his assistant's voice came through the intercom. "Your 10 a.m. meeting with the Italian delegation has arrived, sir." His jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the skyline, steel and glass rising like ambition frozen in architecture. But his reflection in the window had nothing to do with quarterly reports or mergers. "Tell them to wait," he said flatly. His own image stared back at him, tailored, controlled, polished down to the cufflinks. But behind that, something frayed. His fingers twitched, remembering the envelope he once slid across his desk. Not a contract, not a deal. A bribe, a way to make someone disappear, someone he had loved, or at least thought he did. Her name still burned in his mind like a name carved into wet cement. Aurelia. He had taken everything from her with 5 words. Take the money, end it. 4 years ago. Aurelia's eyes were wide, but not afraid. She wasn't pleading. She was standing in front of him with a kind of quiet desperation that comes when you've run out of tears. "I'm pregnant, Lennox," she whispered. He was still behind his desk, but the air between them felt like a wall. He raised a brow. "You're sure?" She didn't respond, just nodded. "I see." He looked down, then stood. "Aurelia, you're brilliant. You know what this means, for both of us." Her voice trembled. "I know exactly what it means, and I'm ready to face it. I'm not—" She flinched. He stepped closer, tone shifting from cold logic to calm persuasion. "We are weeks away from closing one of the biggest deals in the company's history. I can't have a scandal. Not now." She stared at him. "So that's what this is? A scandal?" "It's a complication." He opened a drawer and placed an envelope on the table. "This will cover everything. The best doctors, discretion, recovery." She didn't move. "Aurelia." He softened. "This doesn't have to change anything. We can go back to how we were. No press, no mess, no damage. I'm not a contract, Lennox." He ignored the sting in her words and walked around the desk, hand brushing her shoulder. "Please, you're smarter than this. You have dreams. Don't chain yourself down with this detour." Her jaw tightened. "It's not a detour. It's a child." "Exactly," he replied, voice taut. "And neither of us is ready." Her eyes glistened, but she didn't cry. "I'll never be ready to kill something I love." "You're being dramatic," he said quickly. "No, I'm being human." The moment hung between them. He whispered, "Please." She turned and walked out without another word. Later that night, Aurelia sat in her tiny studio apartment, envelope untouched on the kitchen table. She stared at the ceiling, numb and shivering. That night, she made a decision. By dawn, she was on a southbound bus. No suitcase, just a backpack, a coat, and her resolve. She didn't call anyone, didn't say goodbye. She fled the city, fled him, but not the life inside her. Lennox Carrington's phone vibrated again. "Sir, the delegation is getting impatient." He pressed the button and answered quietly. "Cancel it." A pause on the other end. "Sir," I said, "cancel it." He turned from the glass. No more pretending, no more distractions. He had everything, except peace. And in that moment, for the first time in years, Lennox realized he may have sacrificed the only thing that ever truly mattered. And it was too late to buy it back. Hello, family. Before we dive into this story, I just want to beg you, yes, beg you, from my heart, please like, comment, and share this video. It helps YouTube push it out to others who may need the lesson wrapped in this story. I had to cut this tale short. Believe me, it's deeper than I could ever tell in one video. But I promise, I'm going straight to the point. No fluff, no dragging. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Now, let's get into it. 4 years ago. The city never really sleeps, but Aurelia Mendez was learning how to disappear in its quietest hours. The subway car rattled beneath her like a shaking heart, the lights flickering as they passed another tunnel. She clutched her coat tighter over her belly, barely 3 weeks along, but already feeling everything shifting inside her. The envelope Lennox had given her was still zipped in her backpack, unopened, unused. She had considered it, once, right before the nausea hit, and she cried into the bathroom sink until her legs gave out. She hadn't called her sister, hadn't told a friend. She'd known if she told anyone, they might talk her out of running. But she wasn't running. She was saving. Not just herself, all 3 of them. At the bus terminal, Aurelia stood in line for a one-way ticket to Miami. The woman at the counter barely looked up. Departures in 30 minutes. ID? Aurelia slid her driver's license across the glass. Her hands were cold. The woman returned it, printed the ticket, and handed it through. You want to check any bags? No. The woman gave her a look, like she saw the hollow circles under Aurelia's eyes but knew better than to ask. The bus reeked of gasoline and old upholstery. Her seat didn't recline, and the air conditioning hissed all night. Still, it was the safest place Aurelia had known in weeks. She curled against the window, knees pulled to her chest, one hand flat over her stomach. A whisper left her lips, barely sound. I'm not going to let him erase you. She arrived with nowhere to stay, no job, and nothing but instinct. The only thing she had going for her was her former roommate from grad school who now worked at a local art nonprofit. Nina let her crash on the couch. Didn't ask many questions. Just handed her tea, a hot shower, and a key. The next week, Aurelia landed a front desk gig at a local gallery. It paid just enough to eat and share rent on a small 2-bedroom place with Nina. But every day was survival. Every morning she woke up, her chest ached with the echo of Lennox's voice, telling her she was making a mistake. Every night, she held her stomach and whispered stories into the darkness. And then came the ultrasound. 3 heartbeats. She remembered gripping the side of the exam table, her mouth falling open. Are you sure? She asked the technician. Very sure. Triplets. The laughter came out like a sob. Of course. Even now, he couldn't do anything halfway. 6 months later, she worked as long as her ankles could hold her. Then she stopped working. Nina picked up the slack. The local community supported her more than she could have imagined. Donations came in, baby clothes, formula, car seats. The girls were born on a Monday morning. Emergency C-section. She'd named them in the recovery room, heart still raw from the delivery. Serafina Rose, because she fought the hardest. Leora Bell, because her silence was deep and powerful. Zara Soul, because her tiny fists clenched like she was ready for the world. No middle names from Lennox. No mention of a father. On every official form, she wrote one word, unknown. It wasn't to hide them. It was to protect them. From a man who had chosen his empire over their existence. Years past, Miami wasn't always kind, but it was real. Aurelia built a life that didn't include Lennox Carrington. A small, messy, beautiful one. Mornings filled with cereal spills and bedtime stories. Screaming toddlers and finger paint walls. But laughter, too. A lot of laughter. She taught online classes in art history, managed a pop-up art space on weekends, and somehow they got by. Sometimes she'd catch a glimpse of a man in a suit walking past and freeze. Her heart would sprint, but it was never him. Still, she kept the girls away from cameras, refused interviews, locked her social media accounts. She couldn't risk being found, not because she feared him, but because she feared what he might want. He had once tried to buy their end. She would never let him buy their beginning. That morning she hadn't planned anything special, just smoothies and murals and letting the girls burn off some energy. She dressed them in matching dresses. They'd picked them out the night before, pink with white tulips. Zara spilled her drink first. Leora started crying over a broken straw. Serafina had kicked her sandal across the cafe. Just another Saturday. And then he appeared, across the street. Frozen in place, eyes locked on her like he'd just seen a ghost he thought he buried. She knew those shoulders, that walk, the posture of a man who always won, until he didn't. Her entire body went still. Her heart screamed, not here, not now. Time to go, she said, her voice tighter than usual. But Mama, now. She scooped up Zara, grabbed Serafina's hand, and pointed for Leora to follow. They walked fast. Not once did she look back, because she knew exactly what was behind her, the man who paid her to disappear. And the look in his eyes told her he'd just seen the living proof that she never did. The sun spilled golden over Wynwood, catching the edges of bright murals and polished sunglasses. It was loud, colorful, and alive, so different from the hush of Lennox Carrington's world. He stood still, arms frozen at his sides, suit jacket open, forgotten. Across the street, in a world that had clearly learned how to laugh again, sat the woman he thought he had erased. Aurelia. And 3 little girls. He didn't know what stunned him more, the curls bouncing as they argued over smoothies, the matching dresses, or the eyes. Those unmistakable green eyes. His eyes. On 3 small faces. He didn't notice the barista behind him spill ice, didn't feel the heat pressing through his shirt. His pulse had taken over. He took one step forward, then another. Across the street, Aurelia was wiping a spill from the table, her focus on a pink cup tilting too far. She hadn't seen him. Not yet. One of the girls pointed. "Mommy, why is that man staring at us?" Aurelia paused, rag in hand. She followed the girl's tiny finger. Their eyes met. She didn't gasp, didn't blink. She simply froze. Her face was unreadable, but her posture changed in an instant. Protective. She stood slowly, motioned for the girls to gather their things. He crossed the street. She moved faster. "Wait!" he called out, voice rough from disbelief. Serafina turned, confused. "Mama, he's coming." Aurelia clutched their hands. "Keep walking. Please," he shouted. "Just stop. Please." They didn't. 1 block later, he stood panting on the sidewalk, palms open, breath unsteady. The city was laughing again, musicians playing, kids chasing pigeons, someone blending fruit drinks nearby. But all of that felt distant. All he could see was the woman who had vanished, and the daughters she raised without him. He didn't chase her further. Not now. He knew her well enough to understand. If he wanted another chance to speak, he'd have to wait. Lennox sat on the edge of a hotel bed that cost more per night than most people's rent. The view of the bay was stunning, but he didn't see it. His phone vibrated on the table beside him. He didn't answer. Instead, he stared at a photo he had just pulled from a news site. The image showed him, blurred, mid-step, crossing the street. Behind him, Aurelia walked away, holding 3 little hands. Triplets, not a child. Children. He remembered her voice trembling that night. "I'm not asking you to love me. I'm just asking you not to kill what we created." He had, or tried. He rubbed his hands over his face. What had she gone through? Alone, carrying 3 babies, raising them, without help, and somehow, they looked happy. He remembered their faces. Each girl bore a different version of him, one with that same sharp stare he used in boardrooms, one with quiet composure, and one with a playful spark he barely remembered having. How could he not have known? Somewhere in Miami, 6:42 p.m., Aurelia sat on the couch with her laptop open, trying to focus on a museum grant proposal. The girls were in the next room, watching an animated movie about dragons and stars. But her mind was miles away. She kept hearing his voice. Please, the same word he'd used 4 years ago. But this time it hadn't come with money or contracts. Just breathlessness. And, she hated to admit it, a kind of helplessness she'd never seen in him. She closed the laptop. Her chest felt tight. She walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, stared out the window. He looked exactly the same, maybe even more refined. But his face wasn't polished today. It had cracked, and what spilled out wasn't arrogance. It was disbelief, and something else she didn't want to name. She hadn't expected him to find her again. Not so soon, but when she turned from watching the girls gather shells by the water, there he was, 10 feet behind her. He didn't say her name, didn't rush forward. He stood there like he wasn't sure he belonged. Finally, his voice broke the stillness. I thought you'd killed them. She didn't turn. I thought you'd killed me. A long silence. Then footsteps in sand. Closer. I didn't know, he said. You didn't want to know, she corrected. More silence. She turned then. His face was in shadows. But his eyes, God, those eyes, held regret. You offered me money, she said softly. And then you walked away. I was afraid. Of being a father? Of breaking everything I'd built? She stepped forward, eyes wet now. You didn't just break me, Lennox. You tried to erase them. His jaw clenched. I see them now. Too late. Please. She paused, then nodded toward the water. What are their names? His throat worked to swallow. I don't know. Serafina Rose, she whispered. Leora Bell. Zara Soul. He blinked hard. They're beautiful. They're strong, she replied, because they never had the chance to depend on anyone but me. The wind coming off the ocean was cooler now. The last light of day had melted into dusk, and Miami's skyline sparkled like a silent audience to a conversation long overdue. Lennox stood beside Aurelia, hands in his pockets, fighting the weight pressing against his ribs. In the distance, the girls danced barefoot in the sand, chasing each other with shells and sea foam, their laughter light, untamed, untouched by the storm just steps away. "Are they okay?" he asked. Aurelia didn't look at him. "They're more than okay. They're joy. They're everything you couldn't see through your pride. I never stopped thinking about you. That's the thing about you, Lennox," she said quietly. "You think feeling guilty means something, but it doesn't change what you did or what you didn't do." "I know," he whispered. "I just didn't know how to fix it." "You don't fix this," she said, turning now, facing him fully. "You live with it, and maybe, if you're lucky, you learn from it." He looked at her, and for a moment, he saw a flicker of the woman who used to curl beside him in silk sheets and tell him her wildest dreams at 3 a.m. But this Aurelia was different. Stronger, wiser, more beautiful. "You didn't name me as the father," he said. "No." "Why?" She studied him. "Because the night I told you I was pregnant, you made a choice. You chose your empire, you chose your investors, you chose image. I chose life. I didn't need your permission to bring them into the world, Lennox. And I sure as hell didn't need your name." His voice lowered. "But you still gave them mine." She arched a brow. "Those eyes." He motioned toward the girls. "They're mine." She sighed. "Unfortunately," he laughed softly despite himself. "You always had that fire. It kept me warm when you turned cold." Lennox's chest rose and fell with a breath too heavy to hold. "I want to meet them," he said. She stepped closer. Her tone was measured but firm. "You don't get to just show up and play father. This isn't a weekend visit. This isn't about you making yourself feel better." "I'm not asking to make myself feel anything," he said. "I just want a chance. A chance to do what?" She snapped. "Rewrite history? Pose for pictures? Impress shareholders?" "No," he said, almost pleading. "A chance to be what I wasn't. To be what they deserve." Aurelia folded her arms, guarded but listening. He tried again. "Let me try. Let me show up. I won't take a step without your permission. I won't say a word to them if you say no, but I'm asking for one chance." She searched his face, looked for the man she once loved, looked for the boy behind the power, and she found something there. New, raw, unmasked. "Come back tomorrow," she said finally. "They go to bed at 8. You can say goodnight." He nodded. "Thank you." She turned to leave, but he called after her. "Aurelia." She paused. "I'm sorry." She didn't look back. "You're late, that's all." Later that night, her apartment, 11:06 p.m. The girls had been tucked in hours ago, but Aurelia sat awake on the couch, staring at a photograph on the wall, one she'd taken herself. 3 small footprints side by side in wet sand. The names written beneath in marker: Serafina, Leora, Zara. She thought about the way Lennox looked at them today, like a man drowning in a sea he'd built with his own hands. And somehow, that didn't make her angry. Not anymore. She didn't know if she could forgive him, but she did know something had shifted tonight. Something real. Brickell Bay, his hotel suite, 12:40 a.m. Lennox stared at the ceiling in the dark. His phone was silent. His inbox full. He didn't care. Tomorrow, he'd get to see them again. 3 little miracles. His daughters. And maybe, just maybe, the woman who once believed in him still had a reason to hope. To my cherished family of love and Twilight, if you're still here with me and enjoying the journey so far, I invite you to show your support by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. The story only gets richer from here. Now then, let's dive back in. Next evening, 7:58 p.m. Aurelia stood at the sink rinsing dinner plates, her thoughts tangled between exhaustion and anticipation. The girls had just finished their baths and were now giggling over pajama choices. The soft sound of Disney songs played from the hallway speaker. She glanced at the clock. 2 minutes to 8. He hadn't called. She hadn't expected him to. And still, a quiet part of her waited. Downstairs, outside the building, Lennox sat in the driver's seat of a sleek black SUV, eyes on the second-floor apartment window where warm light flickered behind sheer curtains. He didn't get out immediately. He sat there, gripping the steering wheel like it held all his regret. He'd spent the entire day going over what to say, practicing it in the mirror, rewriting it in his notes app. Nothing felt right. So now, he just waited. Waited to be allowed in. Waited to be forgiven. At 8:03, the porch light blinked twice. He took it as a sign. He stepped out of the car, walked slowly toward the building, one breath at a time. The door opened before he knocked. Aurelia stood in loose cotton pants and a simple black tank top. Her curls were tied back, her skin dewy from the humidity. She didn't smile. "Come in," quietly. "They're in bed." He stepped inside, wiping his feet automatically, like muscle memory from the time they lived together. Everything felt warm, lived in. There were crayon drawings pinned to a corkboard, a line of alphabet magnets scattered on the fridge. It was nothing like his penthouse, and somehow it felt more like home. Aurelia pointed toward the bedroom door. "You can look. Don't wake them." He nodded. The bedroom was painted a soft coral shade, shelves lined with stuffed animals and fairy tale books. 3 small beds formed a row, each with its own personality. Serafina's had star stickers on the headboard. Leora's had a stack of books beside her pillow. Zara's had a teddy bear with one eye missing. Lennox stood in the doorway. He didn't move. He didn't dare. His breath caught as he saw them sleeping, 3 little chests rising and falling in rhythm. His eyes blurred. He hadn't cried since his mother's funeral, but now, as he stared at his daughters, the weight of 4 lost years punched through his armor. A single tear slipped down his cheek, then another, and another. Living room. 15 minutes later, he came back out, face damp, voice tight. "Thank you." Aurelia nodded. "They asked if they'd ever meet their father. I told them he wasn't ready yet." He swallowed hard. "I wasn't." They sat, across from each other, a table between them. "I stayed outside last night," he said. "In the car." She blinked. "Why?" "Because I didn't want to leave without seeing you again. But I didn't want to show up at your door like some ghost either." Aurelia looked at him closely. "You could have called. I didn't think I deserved your number." The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was honest. Finally, she spoke. "They ask about you. Not directly. But when they see other kids with dads, they notice. They're too smart not to." He nodded. "I want them to know me. Slowly. On your terms." Her brow rose. "You're not used to giving up control." "I'm learning," he replied. "One mistake at a time." That earned the smallest curve of her lips. Not a smile, but close. Aurelia brought him a blanket and pillow. "You can take the couch, just for tonight." "I'll be gone before they wake up," he said. She paused. "You don't have to be." He looked up at her. "Just don't make promises you can't keep." "I won't promise," he said. "I'll prove." 2:08 a.m. Aurelia stirred awake, thirsty. As she padded into the hallway, she heard a faint sound from the living room. Lennox. He was sitting upright on the couch, elbows on his knees, staring at one of the crayon drawings pinned to the wall. She said nothing, just watched. He didn't notice her, didn't need to, because in that moment, he wasn't Lennox Carrington, billionaire CEO. He was a man learning how to love what he once abandoned. And somehow, she knew, he wasn't just mourning lost time. He was starting to believe he could make new time count. Next day, late afternoon, the apartment buzzed with noise. Dolls were everywhere. Zara was wearing a tiara backward, Leora was curled on the couch reading, and Serafina was shouting about who stole her glitter pen. Lennox stood in the kitchen holding a wooden spoon like it was a sword. "This can't be right," he muttered, stirring aggressively. "Why is it so watery?" Aurelia leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, hiding a smirk. She watched him in his tailored dress shirt, with sleeves rolled up, staring into a pot of spaghetti that looked more like alphabet soup. "You added too much water," she said calmly. "I followed the instructions." She pointed. "The instructions for the sauce packet say, add half a cup. You added 2. He turned toward her, exasperated. "That explains the tomato puddle. You could have just ordered pizza. I wanted to cook for them. And I wanted a spa weekend. Life's full of disappointment." He laughed. She tried not to. They gathered around the small table. The girls examined their plates with visible suspicion. Serafina raised a brow. "What is this?" "Spaghetti," Lennox answered confidently. Zara twirled her fork and lifted a soggy clump. "It looks like soup." "That's because Daddy added too much love," Aurelia said, before she could stop herself. He blinked. She blinked. The girls looked at her, then at him, then erupted into giggles. Leora whispered, "He's not really that bad." "I heard that," he said, pretending to be offended. "Good," she replied, and tossed a noodle at him. That started a noodle war. Within seconds, spaghetti was flying across the table. Aurelia groaned. "You've created monsters. I just gave them permission to be wild," he grinned. He was on dish duty. The kitchen looked like a war zone. Sauce splattered on the stove, forks in the sink, noodles stuck to the fridge. Aurelia passed him a towel. "You've got flour in your hair." "I didn't even use flour." "Exactly." He looked at her, eyes soft. "Thanks for today. You earned it." "Barely. Tomorrow, could I take them to the park, just for an hour?" She didn't respond right away. "You want to be a part of their life?" "I want to earn it. One small step at a time." Aurelia nodded. "1 hour, and I'm coming with. I hoped you would." Lennox stood by the doorway, watching as Serafina arranged her stuffed animals into a protective circle. Leora was already half asleep with a book on her chest. Zara was humming softly, pulling her blanket to her chin. He walked over quietly, kneeling beside the bed. "Good night, little rebels," he whispered. Zara turned her head toward him, eyelids heavy. "Are you going to be here tomorrow?" "If your mom says yes." Serafina mumbled. "Can you sing?" He chuckled. "Not well. Try anyway." He cleared his throat awkwardly and began a lullaby, soft, low, off-key, but steady. Leora peeked through sleepy lashes, whispering, "You're bad at this, but you're still listening," he whispered back. Aurelia stood in the hallway, arms wrapped around herself, listening. His voice wasn't perfect, but it was present, and that meant everything. He dried his hands after washing the last pot. The kitchen finally resembled a place where food could be made. Aurelia handed him a glass of wine. "You earned this." He raised it in mock toast. To survival. She raised hers. To chaos. They clinked glasses. He sat beside her, careful not to crowd. "I know I have a long way to go." "You do. But today, did it feel like a beginning?" She looked at him. "It felt like a moment," she said. He accepted that. He didn't push, just nodded. For tonight, a moment was enough. 3 nights later, 10:03 p.m., the apartment had quieted into a hush only known to houses with sleeping children. Leora had her usual book tucked under her pillow. Serafina insisted her nightlights stay on. Zara clutched her teddy like a shield. Lennox and Aurelia stood side by side in the kitchen, cleaning up the aftermath of an accidental pancake dinner. His sleeves were rolled up. Her robe barely brushed her knees. Their hands met for the 3rd time at the sink. He passed her a plate. She didn't take it right away. Their fingers touched. Neither pulled back. She glanced at him, slow and measured. His breath shifted. Shallow. Expectant. "I should check on the girls," she said quietly, but didn't move. "They're fine," he replied, just as soft. "You're the one I've been trying to reach all week." She looked away, but not far. "You've been trying with them." "Not me." He dried his hands slowly, setting the towel down on the counter. "Because I didn't think I had the right." Silence. Then she asked, "And now?" His voice dipped. "Now I'm desperate." Her eyes narrowed, not in anger, but hunger. A desire she'd kept caged too long began to stir beneath her skin. "You broke me, Lennox. I know. You made me beg. I hate myself for it. And now you think you can just—" "No," he interrupted. "I don't want to fix the past. I want to start from this moment. If you let me—" She stepped closer. So did he. "I swore I'd never let you touch me again," she whispered. He raised his hand, fingers hovering just shy of her cheek. "Then stop me." She didn't. Instead, she leaned in and kissed him, not gently, not cautiously, but like she was taking something back that was always hers. He growled into her mouth, hands gripping her waist, pulling her heart against him. Her fingers dove into his hair. She tilted her head, gave him more. Let him taste the years she spent hating him, missing him, craving him. He walked her backward until her thighs bumped the counter. Her breath caught when he lifted her with ease and sat her on top of it, her robe falling open just slightly, bare thigh exposed, eyes burning. "I've dreamed of this," he whispered. She pulled him by the collar, lips brushing his ear. "Then stop dreaming." He kissed down her neck, each slow kiss lower, hotter, leaving trails of heat across skin that hadn't known a lover in years. She gasped as his hands slid up her thighs, parting them just enough to step between. You were always mine, he said into her collarbone. No, she breathed. I was never yours to break. He paused, then fell to his knees and kissed her inner thigh reverently. I'm not trying to own you, Aurelia. I'm trying to worship you, she whimpered, her legs trembling around his shoulders. You ruined me, she whispered through gritted teeth. Then let me spend the rest of my life putting you back together. He stood, lifting her off the counter like she weighed nothing. Their mouths never parted. Her legs wrapped around his waist, her hands in his hair, nails digging into his scalp. He carried her to the living room couch. She tore at the buttons on his shirt. He tugged her robe off her shoulders. Their bodies moved with a rhythm only two people with unfinished history could understand. She arched into him, mouth trailing down his neck, moaning when his lips closed around the soft spot just beneath her ear. He laid her down slowly, taking his time, as if memorizing her, as if every inch was a prayer. She pulled him into her, desperate, breathless. His mouth found hers again, and they kissed like time didn't matter, like 4 years of silence had led to this one eruption. He whispered her name over and over. She gasped his like a confession. And when they both finally came undone, it wasn't just physical. It was forgiveness in its most primal form. She lay tangled in his arms on the couch, their breathing slowing, her cheek pressed to his chest. His fingers idly traced circles down her spine. I didn't plan this, she murmured. I didn't dare to hope for it. A pause. Then she added, but I don't regret it. His lips brushed her forehead. Neither do I. They stayed there in the quiet, limbs wrapped, hearts exposed. No promises, no demands, just warmth, just beginning again. Soft sunlight crept through the curtains, painting warm streaks across the couch. Aurelia blinked awake, head resting on Lennox's bare chest. His arm was wrapped protectively around her, steady and warm, his breathing calm beneath her ear. For a moment, she forgot the weight of the past. Then she remembered everything. She shifted, carefully easing herself off him. But the second she moved, his arm tightened slightly. You're leaving already? He murmured, voice husky from sleep. No, she whispered, brushing her curls from her face. Just getting up before the girls do. He opened his eyes. They were soft, no armor, no edge. You always used to wake up before me, he said. Motherhood trained me. He sat up, the blanket slipping off his torso. She tried not to stare, tried not to remember how his body had felt pressed against hers just hours ago. She failed. Last night, he began. She looked at him sharply. Don't apologize. Don't downplay it. Don't explain it away. He straightened. I wasn't going to. I just wanted to say, thank you for trusting me. She softened slightly. It wasn't about trust. It was about needing something real for once. Then let's make it real, he said. Not just last night, the next night, and the next. She held up a hand. No, don't make this about forever. Not yet. Don't rush me. He nodded. Okay. Then let's make today real. Zara's voice rang down the hallway. Aurelia stepped in to find 3 messy-haired girls in footy pajamas, tangled blankets, and an ongoing argument about which cereal was better, chocolate balls or rainbow loops. Behind her, Lennox appeared in the doorway. 3 sets of eyes snapped to him. Zara tilted her head. You're still here? I am, he replied. Serafina blinked. You slept on our couch? He smiled. Yeah, it's more comfortable than it looks. Leora's voice was quiet. Are you staying today? He crouched down to eye level. Only if it's okay with you. They looked at their mother. Aurelia nodded. Zara threw her hands up. Then can he make pancakes again? Lennox looked at Aurelia. Should I? She folded her arms, teasing. You sure you want another shot at it? I'm here to redeem myself. Serafina grinned. Good. But this time, no spaghetti sauce. The air smelled like vanilla and sizzling butter. Lennox flipped pancakes while the girls took turns stirring the batter. Aurelia stood back, watching it all unfold like it was a scene she'd painted in a dream once but never expected to live. She caught Leora quietly placing cut strawberries and a smiley face on her pancake. Zara dropped flour on the floor and laughed like it was confetti. Serafina whispered a joke in Lennox's ear and he laughed, honest, unfiltered. Aurelia's eyes watered. She blinked them clear. Lennox sat on the floor with the girls, building a cardboard castle from an Amazon box and leftover tape. Zara insisted it needed a drawbridge. Leora corrected him when he placed the door backward. Serafina started crafting flags from colored paper. Aurelia walked in with coffee for them both. "I think I'm out of tape," Lennox said. "Nope." Serafina handed him a roll like she'd been preparing for this moment her whole life. He glanced up at Aurelia as she sat beside him. "This is better than boardrooms," he said. "Don't lie," she teased. "I'm not." He turned serious. "This feels like I'm breathing for the first time in years." She stared at him, unsure how to respond. "I've never been scared of risk," he continued. "But I was terrified of this, of not being good enough. Parenthood isn't a competition, Lennox. I know. But I also know I missed their first words, their first steps, their birthdays. I can't get that time back." "No," she said softly. "You can't. But I can be here now." She nodded. "Then be here." The girls were down for a nap after a busy morning. Aurelia and Lennox sat on the small balcony, drinks in hand, sun warming their skin. "It's strange," she said. "I hated you for so long, and yet when you started showing up, I kept letting you in. You didn't let me in. I wore you down. No, you showed me something new. And that's what mattered." He turned to her. "Do you still hate me?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But I'm not angry anymore. That's something." She looked down at her hands. "Do you want to be in their lives permanently? Or is this just your redemption tour?" His face hardened. "This isn't for show. I'm not here to ease my guilt. I'm here to father my daughters, to support them, to support you, even if you never want anything more from me." "You said something last night," she said, "that you're not here to fix the past, just to show up now." He nodded. "That's the only reason I'm still listening." Dinner was takeout. Chinese. The girls had their fortune cookies before eating, because rules were flexible tonight. Zara read hers aloud. "An unexpected friend will bring joy to your week." Serafina declared, "That's Dad." Everyone froze. Aurelia blinked. "You called him what?" Zara giggled. She said, "Dad." Serafina shrugged. "Well, he is." Lennox looked stunned. He wasn't expecting that. Aurelia met his eyes. A soft nod. No need for fanfare. Some things just become true. He kissed each girl goodnight. He didn't ask this time. They expected it. Zara asked him to sing again. He did. When they were asleep, he stood at the door with Aurelia. "Thank you," he whispered. "For what?" "For letting me earn one more day." She looked at him, long and hard, then said quietly, "We'll see what tomorrow brings." Aurelia opened the front door mid-sentence, brushing flour from her apron. "Girls, no jumping on the—" She stopped short. Lennox stood there, this time not in jeans and sneakers, but in a suit, pressed, elegant, familiar. He held no flowers, no toys, just a single envelope. She didn't speak, only stared. He held it out. "Can I come in?" She stepped aside. The girls were at school. The apartment was quiet, still full of sun and life, but without the energy of tiny feet running across hardwood floors. Lennox sat on the edge of the couch, posture straight. His eyes were serious, but not cold. She joined him. Folding her arms, "What's in the envelope?" "Something that won't make up for anything," he said, "but something that might start building something new." He handed it to her. She hesitated, then opened it. Her brows furrowed. The envelope was empty. She looked up sharply. "Is this a joke?" He shook his head. "There's no contract, no clause, no check." "Then what is this?" "It's surrender." Aurelia blinked. "I had documents drafted," he said. "Trust funds, real estate, private school setups, you name it. Everything money can provide. I've been thinking about what they'll need, what you deserve. But before I signed any of it, I realized something." She watched him closely, expression unreadable. "I don't want to come to you with power. I want to come to you with humility. And what exactly does that look like to a man who's used to owning the room?" He gestured to the empty envelope. "It looks like this. No name, no assumptions. You write the terms. You tell me what they need. You decide what I'm allowed to be in their lives. I will follow." She stayed quiet for a long beat, then whispered, "Why?" "Because I tried to control everything once. I tried to dictate how you should live, how you should feel, even how you should grieve. And I lost you." He met her gaze. "I will not make that mistake again." Her hand tightened around the envelope. You said they're not yours to take, she said. They're not, but they're yours by blood. I know. She stared down at the empty paper. Her fingers brushed its edge. When I left, I did it so they'd never know pain, she said. So they'd grow up believing that love was something present, something dependable. You gave them that. I tried. You succeeded, he whispered. She looked at him now, fully, not through bitterness, not through fear, through understanding. You really mean it, she said. Every word. Aurelia stood, walked to the dining table, and retrieved a pen. Then she walked back, placed the envelope in his hands. You want to provide? Then start with this. She slid a piece of paper in front of him. A list. Handwritten. Pediatrician co-pays, Leora's speech therapy sessions, Serafina's ballet classes, Zara's art supplies, field trip fees, grocery budget, rent assistance, no luxury cars, no penthouses, no legal leverage, just life. He looked at it like it was gold. I'll take care of all of it. She tilted her head. Not through your lawyers, not through your foundation, directly, personally, I swear. And no press. I won't say a word until you're ready. Aurelia folded her arms. And if I'm never ready, I'll still be here. Lennox stood in the hallway of the apartment, reading Zara a bedtime story for the third time because she kept interrupting with questions about dragons and invisible wings. He didn't mind. Leora clung to his leg for a goodnight hug. Serafina asked if he could be there for her ballet recital next month. I wouldn't miss it, he promised. Aurelia leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, heart full. He didn't stay the night, but before he left, he paused at the door. I'm not expecting anything between us, he said. Not again, not right away. She tilted her head. You sound like you're giving up. No. He stepped closer. I'm waiting for you to believe it's not just talk. She looked down, then up. Keep showing up, she said. I will. He kissed her cheek gently. Then left. Aurelia opened her inbox to find 7 emailed receipts. Tuition, therapy, groceries. All covered. Paid. Quietly. No fuss. No press. Just action. She closed her laptop and smiled. It started as an innocent family outing. Lennox had rented a private zoo tour, not flashy, just quiet and controlled. Something the girls could enjoy without the chaos of weekend crowds. Aurelia had hesitated at first, but the girls were too excited to resist. Can we see the penguins first? Zara begged, practically pulling Lennox by the hand. I want lions. Serafina shouted. Leora, ever composed, whispered, giraffes. Aurelia walked slightly behind, wearing sunglasses and a wide-brim hat, her hand brushing Lennox's every so often. It was easy. Too easy. She didn't notice the camera. Neither did he. The photos went up fast. They weren't from the zoo's media team. They weren't from security. A random tourist had caught the perfect angle. Lennox crouched down, all 3 girls wrapping their arms around his neck, laughing. And beside him, Aurelia, smiling. Caption: Is this the billionaire CEO's hidden family? Spotted in Miami today with triplets and a mystery woman. Hashtags, mentions, conspiracies. By midnight, it was everywhere. Next morning, 9:16 a.m., Aurelia's phone buzzed uncontrollably. She silenced it. Lennox was already on her doorstep. His face was pale, his jaw tight. I tried to stop it, he said. I called every outlet, threatened legal action. It's spreading too fast. She didn't yell. She didn't panic. She simply stared at him. Cold. Focused. This was why I ran. I know. This was what I feared. I know. And now it's here. He didn't offer excuses, didn't try to spin it. Instead, he said, let me protect you this time. Let me speak up. Aurelia folded her arms. Speak up how? I'll go public. Are you insane? I'll own it. Tell the world exactly who you are, who they are, and why I was never man enough before. Aurelia's heart pounded. You don't owe the world anything. I owe it to you. No, you owe it to them. Later that night, 8:30 p.m., Lennox stood at a podium in a small press room inside Carrington Tower. Cameras flashed. Reporters buzzed. His PR team whispered about damage control. He adjusted the mic, took a breath. My name is Lennox Carrington, he began. Silence fell. And I have 3 daughters. The room shifted. I should have spoken this truth 4 years ago, but I was a coward. I abandoned the woman I loved. I abandoned our children before they were born, because I was afraid of looking weak, because I cared more about reputation than responsibility. No one spoke. He looked directly into the cameras. There will be no more hiding, not from myself, not from them. If this costs me money, fine. If this costs me business, fine. If this costs me everything I once thought mattered, then so be it. He stepped back, then motioned toward the curtain. Aurelia walked out. In her arms was Zara. Leora and Serafina followed, holding each other's hands. They stopped beside him. The camera flashes were relentless, but Lennox didn't flinch. He reached down, held Serafina's hand, then looked at the reporters. This is what makes me a man. Next day, online headlines. Lennox Carrington acknowledges secret family powerhouse CEO publicly claims triplets in surprise statement from business titan to father. A new chapter for Lennox Carrington's social media wasn't cruel. It was stunned, then inspired. She scrolled through the coverage, heart pounding. Most comments were kind, supportive, moved by the vulnerability. She looked up as Lennox walked in, hair damp from the rain, grocery bags in hand. I got their favorite cereal, he said, setting the bags down. Aurelia rose from the couch. I didn't ask you to do that, she said. I know, but you did. He looked at her, cautious. Then she added, that's the difference between you now and who you used to be. The world had changed overnight. Carrington International stock had dipped initially, then rebounded sharply, not because of a product, not because of a merger, but because the world had seen something rare, a powerful man admitting fault without spin. And standing beside him, Aurelia, not a secret mistress, not a scandal, a woman who had raised 3 daughters with strength and grace. Zara crunched her cereal dramatically. Are we famous now? People at school asked if we're rich, Serafina added. Leora looked up quietly. Are we? Aurelia shot Lennox a look across the table. He smirked. We're definitely not poor, he replied. But we're not famous. Just seen. Zara blinked. Is that good? He leaned down and kissed her head. Only if we're seen for the right reasons. Aurelia entered the marble-floored atrium like a woman on a mission. Sleek blazer, tailored pants, chin high. She was there to meet Lennox, not as someone tucked in his shadow, but as his equal. The receptionist buzzed him. He said to send you straight up, Ms. Mendez. She stepped into the elevator. The doors closed, and she inhaled deeply. When the elevator opened, Lennox was already waiting. No assistance, no distractions, just him. You came, he said. I needed to see it for myself, she replied, stepping into the office. See what? If the man who stood on that stage is the same man who built all this. He didn't move. And what do you think? I think maybe the old you died the moment you knelt in front of your daughters. He exhaled, deeply. Good. Because that man deserved to disappear. She walked past him to the massive windows, looking out at the city he once chose over her. You know, she said, I didn't just leave because of what you said. He waited. I left because I didn't want our children to grow up believing love looked like cold negotiations and calculated affection. Lennox stepped beside her. They won't. Not anymore. She looked at him. He meant it. The board of Carrington International sat in stunned silence. Lennox stood at the head of the table. No presentation, no data charts, just truth. I understand some of you have concerns, he began. You've seen the headlines, heard the whispers. No one interrupted. He continued. This company has always stood on strength, on transparency. We demand it from our partners, our clients, our teams. He paused. Now I'm demanding it from myself. A few exchanged looks. I chose silence over honesty once. I won't do it again. If my role as CEO is now seen as incompatible with being a visible father to 3 young girls and the woman I walked away from, say so. I'll step down. The room tensed. But if you believe a man can lead better after facing his failures, if you believe authenticity matters more than image, then let me continue. He stepped back. I'm not asking for grace. I'm showing growth. A beat. Then someone clapped, followed by another and another. At the apartment, the girls were making a mess in the living room fort. Aurelia sat on the floor beside Lennox, helping Leora tape a paper crown. Your board still standing behind you? she asked. They are, and your company didn't crumble. She raised a brow, surprised. Honestly. Yes, she laughed, leaning back on her palms. He watched her, her strength, her warmth, the way her presence brought calm even in chaos. What are you thinking? She asked, catching his stare. I'm thinking I almost lost all of this. But you didn't, she replied softly. He moved closer. I want to build something more permanent, he said. Not just family dinners and school pickups, something lasting. She narrowed her eyes. What do you mean? He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Aurelia's breath caught. I'm not asking you to marry me now, he said, opening it slowly. But I'm asking you to consider a future where you might. Inside sat a thin rose gold ring, etched with 3 tiny emerald stones. Serafina, Leora, Zara, he whispered. Her eyes filled. This isn't a proposal, he said again. This is a promise that I'm here, that I'm staying, that I know what I almost destroyed, and what I'd give anything to protect now. She stared at the ring, then at him, then closed the box gently and placed it in his hand. I'm not saying no, she said. He nodded. I'm saying, let's earn it first, together. He smiled and kissed her palm. Late night, newsfeed reactions. Carrington's redemption arc hits the heart. Real father, real man. Family is the future of leadership. Aurelia's apartment, 11:57 p.m. The girls were asleep. The apartment was quiet again. Aurelia stood at the window, sipping tea. Lennox came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. This is the first time I've felt peace, he murmured. She leaned back into him. Then hold on to it. He kissed her temple. I plan to. 6 months later, the scent of maple syrup danced through the air. Children's laughter echoed down the hallway, followed by the thud of tiny feet racing through the freshly renovated brownstone. Triplets in princess pajamas turned the living room into a magical kingdom. Feather boas, toy tiaras, pillow thrones, glitter on every available surface. Zara shouted, Serafina can't be queen. She has ketchup on her dress. Serafina raised her chin. Queens don't need to be clean. They need to rule. Leora, holding a clipboard fashioned from construction paper, nodded seriously. We need a vote. From the kitchen, Lennox peered out in a flour-dusted apron. I demand diplomatic immunity from all royal drama, he called. You're the chef, Zara shouted. You serve the throne. He grinned and flipped another pancake. Yes, Your Highness. Aurelia patted in, robe loosely tied, curls wild, eyes still dreamy from sleep. She leaned on the doorframe and watched him. His white shirt was half-buttoned, sleeves rolled, apron slightly off-center. He looked relaxed, different, lighter. How long have you been up? She asked, grabbing a mug. 5. I had work emails. He smirked. Then I heard paper crowns being debated at sunrise. She chuckled. They've turned royalty into a full-time war. You ever think we'd have mornings like this? Never. She took a sip, exhaled. And I don't want to take a single one for granted. He leaned over, brushing a kiss to her temple. You won't have to. They sat together around the new wooden table Lennox had insisted on building himself, with some help from YouTube tutorials and Serafina's exacting supervision. Today's agenda, Leora began, holding her clipboard. Zoo, ice cream, nap. Naps are cancelled, Zara declared. Approved, Serafina seconded. Aurelia raised a brow. Naps are non-negotiable. Lennox raised his fork like a gavel. Motion to override parental authority. All 3 hands shot up. Aurelia shook her head. You created monsters. I just gave them options, he said, smirking. Lennox pushed the girls on the swings one at a time. Aurelia sat on the bench nearby, watching with quiet joy. He took turns catching them at the bottom of the slide. Zara squealed every time. Serafina pretended to be unbothered, but couldn't hide her smile. Leora just sat at the top, thinking deeply before sliding down slowly. Aurelia turned to a woman sitting beside her. Triplets? The woman asked, smiling. Aurelia nodded. 3 times the magic. And the mess. They looked just like him. Aurelia followed her gaze. Lennox was crouched in the sand, helping Zara build a lopsided castle. She smiled. Yeah, they do. The girls were tucked into the couch, drifting into nap time with cartoons playing softly in the background. Lennox emerged from the laundry room, carrying a basket of clean clothes and socks that had been individually decorated with glitter by Zara. "She's starting a trend," he said. "She's starting a takeover," Aurelia replied. They collapsed onto the couch, shoulder to shoulder. "This house feels like it was always supposed to be ours," she whispered. He nodded. "It's not just a place, it's them, you, us." She turned to him. "You sure you're not overwhelmed?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Pizza, pajamas, paintbrushes. It had become their Saturday ritual. The girls painted stars across poster boards. Aurelia helped Leora trace words for her classroom project. Lennox sat cross-legged with Serafina and Zara, letting them paint on his arms for science. "You look like a superhero," Serafina said. "He's a dad hero," Zara added. He grinned. "I'll take it." Aurelia watched from across the room, heart full. She had fought so hard to keep this peace, and now it was alive, not a dream, a life. The girls were asleep. The house was still. Aurelia stepped out of the shower wrapped in a towel. Lennox was already in bed, reading a children's book Serafina had left behind. He looked up and smiled. "Want me to read to you too?" She chuckled. "Only if it comes with foot rubs." He patted the bed. She climbed in beside him, their bodies sliding into a rhythm that had become familiar, comforting, but not dull. Never dull. "You built something here," she said, voice low. "No," he replied. "We did." She turned to him, eyes locking. "You make me feel safe," she whispered. "You make me want to be better every day." He leaned in and kissed her, slow, deep, meaningful. No urgency, just connection and quiet promise. Aurelia stood at the edge of the bed, towel slipping slightly as she combed her fingers through her curls. Lennox leaned back against the headboard, book forgotten in his lap, eyes on her like she was the only thing that had ever silenced his world. The air between them pulsed, not with urgency, but with intent. "I see you staring," she said without turning. "I've been memorizing," he replied. She turned now. Let the towel fall. He sucked in a breath, chest rising, throat tight. "You're not afraid anymore," she said, taking slow steps toward him. "I am," he whispered. "But not of you." "Then of what?" "Of losing this. Of waking up and finding it was all a second chance I didn't deserve." She climbed onto the bed, knees on either side of his hips, arms resting on his shoulders. "You're not dreaming, Lennox. This is real. I'm real." She pressed her lips to his, gently, deeply. He groaned into her mouth, hands rising to her waist, gripping her like she might disappear if he didn't hold tight enough. She kissed him again, slower this time, savoring the way his body responded, every muscle tensing beneath her, every breath drawn for her. Their mouths parted and came together again and again, building fire with every stroke of tongue and pull of breath. His hands slid along her back, fingertips grazing her spine until goosebumps scattered across her skin. "You feel like home," he murmured. She leaned in, lips brushing his jaw. "Show me." 11:02 p.m. The sheets tangled as he turned her beneath him, his weight settling just enough to make her feel owned, without ever losing her control. She wrapped her legs around his waist, pulled him tighter. His mouth worshipped her skin, neck, collarbone, the soft space just above her heart. She gasped when his hands slid between her thighs, teasing her with maddening patience. His fingers traced familiar lines, relearning her body like a man trying to map sacred territory with reverence and desire. Aurelia arched into his touch. "Don't stop," she breathed. "Not until you forget every second I made you feel alone." He kissed her ribs, her stomach, down, lower still, until she couldn't breathe. Until she wasn't whispering his name, she was moaning it like a prayer. Her fingers fisted the sheets. Her hips lifted. She came undone beneath his mouth, trembling, breathless, whispering things even she didn't know she could feel again. He kissed his way back up to her mouth, and when their eyes met, she saw the man he'd become. Steady, grounded, hers. She pulled him into her without a word. 11:23 p.m. They moved as one, fluid, seamless, urgent, but unrushed. His hands cradled her hips while her nails raked lightly down his back. The rhythm built slowly, then faster, then slow again. It wasn't about climax. It was about intimacy. Every thrust, every kiss, every gasp was a note in the song they'd been trying to rewrite for years. He looked down at her as their bodies pulsed together. "I've never loved anyone like this," he said hoarsely. She cupped his cheek, eyes shining. "Then don't stop now." He made love to her like he had something to prove, but not to her, to himself, that he was worthy, that he could be soft, that he could be strong without cruelty. And when they both shattered, it was quiet, like an old wound finally closing. Midnight to after. They lay in silence, tangled and breathless, Aurelia's head on his chest, fingers drawing idle lines on his skin. "I don't want a perfect life," she whispered. He kissed her hair. "Good, because I only know how to fight for a real one." She looked up at him, eyes sleepy but honest. "Then let's fight for this." The triplets were playing in the sunroom, sunlight streaking across hardwood floors as giggles bounced off the walls. Serafina sorted markers by color. Leora read aloud from a picture book. Zara was deep in the corner, building a paper tower from cereal boxes. Upstairs in his study, Lennox sat at his desk with a pen in hand. No screens, no distractions, just paper and purpose. He began to write. "One day you'll read this. You'll be older, maybe teenagers, maybe adults, maybe mothers yourselves. And I want you to know the truth. Not the version the headlines told, not the one from dinner table jokes or old pictures, but from me. I was not ready when you came into this world. That's not your fault. It's mine. I chose ambition over responsibility, image over truth. I thought power made me strong. That vulnerability made me weak. But then I saw your faces, and everything I once believed shattered. You weren't mistakes. You were my miracles. I didn't earn the right to be your father overnight. I had to learn what it meant, to show up, to listen, to try again even after failing. Your mother taught me that. She taught me how to be a better man, not through lectures, but through how fiercely she loved you, how hard she fought to protect you. She raised you with integrity, with fire in her chest and softness in her hands. I've never admired anyone more than I admire her. The love I feel for you now is the kind that makes my voice tremble when I tuck you in. It's the kind that rearranges a man's soul. I would give up everything I own just to see you smile for one more morning. You've each given me something. Serafina, you gave me courage. You speak your truth, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. I see so much of myself in you, but a better version. Leora, you taught me patience. Your quiet, thoughtful heart slows me down. You remind me that silence can say more than words. Zara, you gave me light. Your laughter heals what nothing else can. You see the world through wonder, and now, so do I. If you ever wonder whether love is real, look at your mother. If you ever doubt whether people can change, look at me. I'm not perfect. I never will be, but I am present, and I will never, ever leave again. Love isn't always fireworks. Sometimes it's showing up every single day, even when no one's watching. Sometimes it's packing lunch, braiding hair, listening to stories about crayons and castles and invisible friends. Sometimes love is just not leaving. You are my reason, and I will spend the rest of my life becoming a man you're proud to call Dad. Always, Lennox Carrington. Later that morning, family breakfast table. The girls argued over syrup. Leora accidentally poured orange juice on her pancake. Zara wore a tiara over her sleep bonnet. Serafina insisted everyone call her Your Grace. Aurelia sat across from Lennox, one hand resting on his wrist. "Did you finish the letter?" she asked softly. He nodded. "I'll save it for them," she said. He smiled. "One day I hope they won't need to read it." "Why?" "Because by then," he said, glancing toward the chaos, "they'll already know. If this story touched you, if it made you feel something deep, if it reminded you of the power of love, redemption, and second chances, then please don't just leave quietly. Tell me in the comments, would you have forgiven Lennox? Could you have walked away like Aurelia did? Or fought like she did to protect her children? Like this video if it moved you. Share it with someone who still believes love can be rewritten. Subscribe if you want more stories like this, ones that remind us of what it means to be human, to hurt, to heal, and to choose love again. This isn't just a story. It's a reminder. We all deserve a love that learns to show up. See you in the next story. Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips.